The rain fell in steady sheets that grey October evening as Daniel drove home from another long, lonely day at work. The world seemed quieter lately, colder, ever since the loss of his wife 2 years ago in a car accident that had shattered every part of his existence. Once full of dreams of starting a family, his home had since become a silent monument to grief. He lived his days in autopilot, wake, work, sleep, repeat, until that night, when fate took a sudden and unexpected turn. As he pulled into the small park near his house to rest for a moment, his headlights caught something unusual near a bench beneath the trees. At first, he thought it was just trash left by someone careless, but as he stepped out to check, the soft sound of a whimper broke through the patter of rain. Lying there, soaked and shivering, were two tiny infants wrapped in thin, damp blankets, twins. Daniel froze. His heart pounded as he gently picked them up, feeling how fragile and cold they were. They couldn't have been more than a few months old. No note, no bag, no clue to their identity, only fear in their tear-filled eyes. Without hesitation, he rushed them to the hospital, where doctors stabilized them and confirmed they were malnourished, but would survive. The police opened a case, but no parents or guardians ever came forward. Days turned into weeks, and the twins remained in foster care, waiting. Daniel couldn't sleep. He visited them every day, bringing toys, reading stories, and learning how to feed and care for them. He didn't know why he felt so connected to them. Maybe it was their vulnerability or the emptiness they unknowingly began to fill in his life. He began to feel again hope, purpose, something he thought he'd buried with his wife. One evening, as he cradled them both and hummed the lullaby his wife used to sing, one of the twins reached up and touched his cheek. That single gesture shattered the last wall around his heart. He decided to adopt them. It wasn't easy. Being a single man with no parenting experience meant facing questions, inspections, legal hurdles, and judgments, but Daniel was determined. For every obstacle he answered with patience. For every doubt he responded with unwavering love. After months of waiting, the court finally granted him full custody. He brought them home and named them Lily and Rose, names his wife had once chosen for daughters they never got to have. At first the nights were hard, crying, feeding, sleepless hours. But slowly a new rhythm emerged. Their laughter began to fill the once silent halls. Their little footsteps turned the empty rooms into playgrounds. Daniel found himself smiling again, dancing in the kitchen with toddlers clinging to his legs, reading bedtime stories in funny voices, and waking up to tiny kisses on his cheeks. He watched them grow, take their first steps, speak their first words, Dada being the first. Every milestone healed him a little more. Friends began to return to his life, drawn by the joy they saw returning to his eyes. Where grief once ruled, love now bloomed. On one Father's Day, just 3 years after that rainy night, Daniel walked into the kitchen to find a hand-drawn card propped up next to a tray of cereal and juice. It said, "Best Daddy Ever," in crayon-scrawled letters, with two smiley stick figures holding his hands. Lily and Rose jumped out from behind the couch, giggling, yelling, "Surprise!" He dropped to his knees, arms wide, and they ran into his embrace. Tears fell freely, not from pain, but overwhelming gratitude. These girls had saved him, just as he had saved them. They didn't share his blood, but they shared his soul. Daniel would often look back on that night in the rain and wonder what would have happened if he'd simply driven home. But he didn't. Because sometimes life brings you the most beautiful gifts in the darkest hours. He didn't just rescue 2 abandoned children that night. He rescued himself. Love found him when he had nothing left to give. And in giving to those 2 tiny lives, he discovered a version of himself he never knew existed. A father, a healer, A man reborn through the unconditional love of two little girls who were once lost, just like he was. And together, they built a new home, not from bricks or memories of the past, but from giggles, storybooks, midnight cuddles, and the kind of love that chooses you when you least expect it and need it the most.